joined us. He too is running for U.S. Senate. Here, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, it was almost exactly 5 years ago. If you guys, anyone here from 5 years ago? That first Liberty? Okay. You might remember I was the first speaker. Great day. Incredible day. You know, it was only a month and a half after I'd spoken at the Tea Party up in Greenville, the first Tea Party. And then on this day, 5 years ago, introduced Jim DeMint up at the State House steps. I say that because if you could have been there, some of you guys may have been there at the Tax Day Tea Party rally at the State House steps. The liberal media expected a few hundred people, just like they expected like dozens of people up in Greenville. There were thousands. I looked in the crowd, I saw thousands of people. When I came here, you remember, people were all over the place, streets, hanging up there in the roofs, looking down. And here's what I believe it was. It was this wave that I saw 5 years ago. That incredible wave, that revolution that brought back our house. That saw people like you and I. Many of you I think are like me. Until about 5 years ago, I was a guy who spent most of my life in the active duty military. I just got back from Afghanistan before I spoke here and seen incredible sacrifices, but realized in summer of 2008, something was terribly wrong. You know, as fall came on, we saw the TARP bailouts. You remember those TARP bailouts? That wasn't just Democrats. That was Republicans like Lindsey Graham, who voted twice for it. And I came to realize at that time that it wasn't just the Democrats. That if we're going to make change, there's got to be primaries of folks that have not stood true to our principles. So I spoke at that first Tea Party back on February 27, 2009. I spoke at the one here. I spoke and introduced Jim DeMint there. And it was incredible because if y'all remember, a year and a half later, we swept in. Against all odds, we took back the House. Remember, that was the same House that brought us Obamacare. I see the same thing about to happen again, and the people that are right here fighting right now, and with the people out there in Nevada that are fighting for us against tyranny. Because what I came to talk about is what we see of the liberty among a unique class of people, and that is the U.S. military. You know, my Aunt Cassie's here, and my grandfather, her father, served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Thank you. My father served in Vietnam, and I grew up as a military brat. In fact, I was born in Hawaii, and I've got my birth certificate, in case you want to check that out. Long form. Not fake, but anyway, throughout my life, I had a chance to see what those defend us, the difference between them and others. Because here's the unique thing about America. This document that we swear to, and by the way, we swear an oath to a document, not to a person. I took my oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That was my oath. That's the oath I stand to. A lot of folks have asked, you know, where do you stand on these issues of firing on American citizens? This is my oath first. It will always remain my oath. But here's the thing I came to realize in going to the Citadel and just seeing the military life, coming in the Army, active duty for quite a number of years, over a decade as an airborne Ranger infantry officer, was to see the difference between our Americans and people like the Europeans who grew up in a different system. A system that did not put their faith in a constitution like this. And a system that went towards socialism. A system that went post-Christian. And I started seeing the difference early on. You know, my first early deployments after Ranger School were going to the Gulf region, the Middle East. I went to Egypt, and you could sort of see among allies differences. And later on, when I went to Afghanistan, I had a unique situation. It was the summer of 2007 when I got there. It was the start of this Taliban spring-summer offensive. In 2006, things really started to heat up. But at that time frame, by the way, Colonel Alan West was there at that time. Our job was to advise the Afghans, but we were put in the European area of operation. So we were serving with the Europeans and small numbers of Americans. Very unique situation. And I had to put these teams out under strength because of the surge in Iraq. And we were given a new mission, which was advising the Afghan army and the Afghan police. But here was the amazing thing to see. And it's a story that I want to tell over and over again. For these young captains, these young sergeants were put out there next to European brethren. And you could see America on the battlefield. You know, they were doing things that their European brethren, though their European brethren were brave, things that had to get done. The hard work, the ingenuity, the initiative they showed was incredible. Because they do things, they come back to me saying, hey, look, we need to get this done. They could have sat back in these fobs and done almost nothing sometimes, but they wanted to get things done. And the reason is, I believe, because of our system that was set up by our founders, that limited government, that told you have equal opportunity, but there's no guarantee of results. You've got to take this, you've got to fight for it as American. And that ethos is in all of us. And I saw them next to European counterparts. And again, the European counterparts a lot of times will sit back in meetings and all that sort of thing, because they're in a system right now that's their system. It's big government. Ours is not. And I saw this over and over again on the battlefield. When I came back home, what I realized was that as we moved toward this big government, and I saw it with the TARP bailout, I saw it with the NSA, with getting rid of our Fourth Amendment rights, with getting rid of our First Amendment rights. All things we're seeing, we are headed in the direction of Europe as fast as we can possibly go, and that's wrong. The Europeans don't want it. So that was why I got involved back then in 2009. Y'all know I ran for lieutenant governor, made all the way to the runoff, lost the runoff. That's okay, though. There's a sovereign God. He's got his reasons. And I believe his reason, thank you, I believe his reason was to bring me in this race. We have got a senator that must be replaced, period.
That's right.
And this senator can be replaced. You know, he probably started out with good intentions, that's fine. But after 20 years in D.C., we say again, 2 decades in D.C., it is time for him to go back home to Seneca or wherever, get a real job, and spend some time being a citizen, living under the laws that he's passed. Thank you. We don't need to see our country destroyed by out-of-control immigration. I believe in controlled immigration. And right now, we got senators there who don't understand the effects on the American economy, the effects on the American people, the effects on everything we do by allowing immigration laws to be completely disregarded, and then telling us, as conservatives, we better give in to those laws and grant amnesty, because if we don't, we're going to lose out. I don't buy that one bit. We're going to fight for our country. If you come here legally, that's fine. If you come here illegally, we're not going to keep you here. You're going back home. I'd like to get to D.C. and truly get back to this document. You know what that means? That means things like the fair tax. Because we had to amend our Constitution to allow an IRS and an income tax. We need to go back to the days when we received the amount of money we needed through basically consumption tax. We need to end the Department of Education. Now,
There you go.
all this fighting Common Core and everywhere else, there's no education inside of this. There's nothing allowing for Obamacare inside of this. We need to fight. And if I seem passionate, you're going to see a passionate guy when I get to the Senate floor. Because I'm going to rush and run ahead of Ted Cruz to grab this microphone when it comes to standing up for our rights. Look, people ask, Bill, you've not served political office. How do we trust you? You can trust me. I put my life on the line for 24 years. I believe in this. I fought for it. I see people die for it. I will fight. I'll give my life for this document if you give me the chance. Thank you so much, and God bless you. God bless America. Thank you.